Didn't save me a chair.
Right this.
You mind if I sit here? You sure?
I might as well, but.
It'll be okay.
Talking today, so 5 minutes speech, so everything explain why are we are.
Yeah, like.
4 minutes ago.
I really don't see their money back.
Oh, you don't? Okay.
Yes. Sorry, I didn't mean to apologize.
Second, whatever the day is, it's just, it's like the means with, like the MPI, I know the whole. New, east side.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you.
That's not changed. County, city, we're banning this road in church. Probably ask you.
I'm a camp.
I don't see her yet, but hopefully we can make sure she gets at it.
Any questions?
Somebody remembered.
But you may retire.
And they.
Exactly. So that's exactly what you gotta get it. You knew about it. Yep.
And even
So, compromise.
Exactly. We'll find out. I think that's. Yeah. Yeah, I was telling it, I put my.
I think
Also, her brother's life. So she's up to her.
Call the Grand Forks County Commission meeting for July 1st, 2025 to order. Please stand for the pledge of allegiance. Approval of the minutes.
Second.
First and a second, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
And it's passed unanimously. Approval of order of agenda.
Move. Second.
First and a second, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Motion passed unanimously. Approval of consent agenda, bills, employee sales change, overtime, and then an application for the public display of fireworks.
Move.
Second.
See, you got it.
First and a second, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed unanimously. All right, citizen comments. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to address the board at this time? You had a comment on the Northridge?
Northridge, correct.
Northridge, okay.
Yep.
I'm gonna hold that, and when we get to that topic, I'll let you speak.
Thank you.
Sound good?
Mhm.
Anybody else have any comments that they'd like to make?
Same issue.
Okay, very good. I'll let you guys have your.
Yep,
minutes on
that's
that.
fine.
Okay. Hearing no one else? Moving on. City of Grand Forks. Mr. Thielen, are you
Yes.
using that topic? for us?
Good afternoon, my name is Saki, I'm the city administrator for the city of Grand Forks. The dome is looking great, so, nice job, the topper looking nice. I'm really grateful to be here to speak on behalf of this Greenstone project, so I can't say enough. Sometimes we take for granted that this project is in front of us and moving forward. It's a game changer for Grand Forks. And I have a few people here I want to really recognize. One gentleman in the back corner there is named Andy Gulson. And so if you want to know why this project is at Grand Forks, it's because of the potato growers from generally from the Northern Potato Association. But Mr. Gullickson, he's too full of humility to take credit, but he's been working on this for 3 years. So it's not often we get a project coming to the city of Grand Forks where it's bottom up from the growers themselves. So what we're trying to do with the project right now is not screw it up, because a lot of people have worked for 3 years to make this happen, and they have a lot of blood, sweat, and tears engaged in this project. So that's Andy. If you have any questions regarding the farmer end, he's here to answer any questions, but he's not going to demand to grab that. The other person I really want to thank is Representative Jared Hager. And one of the big things that we got done in this legislative session is a $30 million forgivable line of credit through the Department of Ag to get this project across the finish line. And that will be mainly for infrastructure, land acquisition, those sorts of things. So in this project, we were competing with a site in Wisconsin, Stevens Point, Wisconsin. They were in the lead due to our growers, and then coming to the city and working with the state. We've been able to close the gap, and we were selected for the project. So it's a pretty incredible moment for the entire community that we're here at this point in time. I also want to thank Governor Armstrong, who played a huge role in this. I want to thank Ag Commissioner Garing, North Dakota Seed Commissioner Ken Barch. Birch said that this is the best project that he's seen. He's been around for a while, that he's seen in decades. So that's the kind of project we have in front of us today. Bank of North Dakota Department of Water Resources, North Dakota Legislature, and Jared Hager, and Mr. Hager is going to say a few words too. So it was a team effort, and I'd also be remiss not to add U.S. Senator Hogan, who did a lot of yeoman's work with BNSF, because one of the things we had to do is to bring rail in here to close the gap between us and the Wisconsin site, because obviously Wisconsin is closer to the market in this case, and the market really is the East Coast, Southeast, and kind of in the South from Texas and Arizona. So the rail has helped us close the gap, and obviously the $30 million in funding can help people. So a lot of work has gone on to get us to this point, and we're very thankful. Right now, preschool in the industry is going through expansion around the world, the frozen food expansion, in particular with potatoes. And so they're finishing up a plant in France, they're finishing up a plant in India, and then they want a North American expansion. So they were looking at North American sites, and lo and behold, they picked Grand Forks for all of our efforts. So we're full of humility that we've been able to get to this point in time. regarding that. I would say the difference, we're very blessed to have JR Simplot here. And we're now blessed to have Agristo. They are in, separate, markets. Agristo is generally going to serve the retail, grocery store markets, in the freezer. So, some of their, customers are like Sam's Club and Walmart. So they're already in our US market, but they need to get here, from a supply perspective to build a facility, and they picked us on that. So in this particular project, we're going to talk about property tax incentive, which is an important part. That's what we're asking you to participate. They are looking at the Full Farm site, which is about a 350-acre site, north of the city, where the city has been putting in infrastructure over the last several years. We're starting to put in, obviously, wet corn mill. But all told, probably in the next couple of years, while Agristo builds there, we'll probably have about $30 million of offset infrastructure, and that's water, wastewater, stormwater, and then transportation. So we'll have a significant investment. So we're really appreciative of them buying the site and allowing us all to move forward, and we'll move forward to an alternative location. So that's really worked well. We're also going to help work with Bank North Dakota and the Grand Forks Growth Fund and some financing, bank financing. So we'll be doing that. We have this property tax incentive, and I think the fourth reason why what we really work hard on, we have a great collaborative community with a great terrific culture, and that's really the qualitative reason why I reached Grand Forks versus the Wisconsin site. And there's nothing wrong with the site in Wisconsin and the people of Wisconsin, but they've said publicly they like Grand Forks better, they like North Dakota better, and this is where they want it. And this is where they want to make their significant investments. So that you should know that. They enjoy Grand Forks, and they made a comment when they're at their headquarters in Belgium. Nobody wants to have a plant in the United States where everyone says, cleaned up, all shucks, I don't really want to go there. Okay, they want to be able to go see a site in the United States that we really want to go to, and that's Grand Forks. So thanks for everyone that we've done. We got a great community and a great future. So the four reasons why they really picked strong ag community. We have a sophisticated ag community in the region, and they've identified that. We know that with the sophistication that we have in our farming economy. Number two, they are a fast growing area in Northeast North Dakota and Northwest Minnesota. Was a competitive advantage, business friendly, and room for growth and expansion. So certainly we're going to talk about this facility. We're going to talk about it today, but they want to grow and expand in the region, and they felt like this was a phase one, but they could look at future phases of growth and expansion. And then finally, as I talked about, they talked about our shared values and meaningful collaborations with the stakeholders. And so they really appreciate all that. I talked about trying to close the gap with the Wisconsin site. Thank you to the state of North Dakota and the North Dakota legislature. That $30 million forgivable infrastructure line of credit that Representative Hager helped lead was a big deal. That helped us really get over the hump. The other issue is this 20-year 90% property tax incentive I'm talking about right now. That was another big issue. The site in Wisconsin is 100% over 20 years. The other difference in Wisconsin is the land is not taxable over that 20 years too. I'll go over some of the numbers, but in North Dakota, you do not exempt the land value. So that's excluded from the real property incentive. And so that was a big difference. So we started at a 20-year 80% and we ended at a 20-year 90% just to help close the gap. What is the timeline of Agristo right now is that they plan to start construction in 2026 with operations startup in early 2028 and likely to begin distribution in the latter part of 2028. So leading up to that, they have to be working. We've been working with farmers over the last 3 years, but we've got to start really engaging with our farmers and growing potatoes in advance of that year of 28 to make sure they have production going on. Right now, what they're doing is they're working on a letter of intent with Full and their negotiation for the property. They are looking to close in around September 2025 with a letter of intent to come at any moment. They are also looking at the processing facility engineering and environmental design. Lisa Botman is here. She's the gal in the black right next to Andy back there. She's going to be the project manager for the city of Grand Forks and all the environmental and infrastructure components. regarding our development agreement. So she's gonna be working hard. So you'll see her from time to time on that. And they're gonna hire a general contractor, a construction management firm. And so I think they're at or near that. So they're making lots of progress and making lots of decisions on this. And of course, they're going to continue to work with our farmers in our region to get them up to speed and signing contracts and all those things that they have to do. So a lot has gone on. The other thing is I was blessed to go to Belgium to see their operations. And so for this investment, they're setting a team for this North American investment in the United States. So just when we think we have a lot of work to do, we're a small part of really a bigger thing of getting this project done. Really, it takes a lot of motion and a lot of investment for them to consider this investment. So just so you know, they're all in on this, but it is a significant investment they're making in the pilot itself. I said it was a 90% over 20 years. Our financial analysis demonstrated as a $450 million processing facility. It likely will be more than that, but that's the baseline that we use just for the pro forma, the financial analysis that we have. Of that 450 million, we're estimating about 186 million relates to real estate. Of that 186, we're estimating the land value at $11 million of that value. And as you well know, again, I talked about the land value of 11 million. It's never reduced at all. That's a full value. And so when we look at leading up to the project being completed in 28, I'll just give you some quick numbers. In 2025, we're estimating just the land value is going to have a taxable value of 181,000. The Grand Forks County share of that in 25 would be 45,000. In 26, as this facility starts to build, and as you build these facilities, it's not exempted from property tax until it's final completed. The value we estimate to be 246,000, and Grand Forks County share will be 107. In 2027, we estimate the value of the taxes will be 823,000, and Grand Forks County's share will be 252,000. And then in 2028, we estimate the property tax value to be about 1.2 million, of which Grand Forks County share will be 356,000. And then when it's finally completed, the first year of that 20 years will be in 2029. And so at that 10%, we're estimating in 29 will be, they'll pay taxes in the amount of 476,000 once it gets stabilized, and the county share will be 119,000. And then in year 21, our estimate value for the total project will be $3.7 million, $3.7 million in property tax, and the county share of that, if everything remained the same for all of our percentages, would be 940,000. So obviously that's pretty significant. And even at the 10%, if I look at in year one, the 476,000, that would make this development the second highest paid property taxpayer in Grand Forks County. And the only one that is a higher property taxpayer would be the other potato project. So we were here earlier with Cirrus Aircraft, Ellen Wind Power at that dollar amount. At 10%, they're paying more than both. So that's the significance of the investment. In addition, Andy Gullickson in the back, he's been working a lot with the farmers, but the other large investments that kind of happened, and it could be on the site and it could be on the farm too, is farm storage. And so they're looking at likely $150 to $200 million in new storage for these. They have a certain design and that they need to store these potatoes. So there'll be another significant investment on farm storage. The other thing it will do is bring in, we look at direct and indirect jobs. Well, it'll be about 660 jobs that this will bring our community. They estimated over the 3 years of construction about 4,900 construction jobs. So it's going to make the community really busy with all the activity going on. I think I talked about, what it's going to bring the egg economy is, Commissioner Bierke and I, we talked about the road network system where the potatoes going to come. So Lisa, I forwarded on to them, and along with Dan Gottsay, who's going to work on the development agreement, we're going to incorporate as part of this project, like we would do a traffic study on what roads we may need to get improved at the food farm site. I think when we were looking at the Blue Farm site, we were gonna make some, modifications and some improvements. Most of it would be on state highway, so. Highway 81 going north and south would have additional turn lanes. It's in the state of North Dakota agreed to pay for. We were looking at turn lanes on Gateway Drive or Highway 2 going on to 42nd Street North. Those again would be state investments to this project. We're going to pave 27th Avenue North, which would be the southern boundary of the site. That's going to get paved over the next couple of years too. So those would be all either city or state cost. I did follow up with Mr. Gulleton, and a majority of the potatoes are going to come from the northwest, kind of in the Walsh, Pembina County area. We're certainly going to have potatoes in our area too, but most of it will be to the north of Grand Forks. So it'll be meaning federal and state and local voters. The other thing this is going to bring, and why it's such a big deal to farmers, is that we're going to, what I've been told by Andy is potatoes are the highest value crop that we have in the River Valley. And so it's going to return some of those dry land acres because this yellow potato from Europe is going to be able to be grown and irrigated in dry land. And so they're going to return all the dry land acres that we've lost since 1980s and 1990s with the drought. It's going to return back to dry land. And so I think I looked at the numbers. If you were here in 1990, we had 150,000 acres, I believe. I think we're down to 75,000 acres. So it's going to return a lot of those acres that used to have potatoes back to apple. So it's obviously a huge economic boom for our region of grain markets. Maybe with that, that's kind of a summary of the whole project, but I'd like to call on Jared and Kate Hunter to just kind of add their perspectives on it. And if you want to say, if you feel compelled to say something, please come on up.
Good afternoon. For the record, I'm Jared Hager, Grand Forks County resident, live south of Emmerdale, North Dakota, and also serve in the state legislature representing District 20 in the North Dakota House. From the state level side, this project had the opportunity to introduce the beginnings of it at our organizational session, and momentum grew from that. As we progressed through discussions and deliberations on this facility, this business opportunity that will bring great value to the state and the region, not only just Grand Forks County, played a big part in the support at the state level. We had great support from local legislators, legislators also based in Dickinson and Arnegard, North Dakota, were on the bill and working for its passage. Looking at it, we have a completion grant set up to take and make sure that the facility is constructed before the funds are available. So in order to get the 30 million from the state, things have to happen. So we want to see, and we've moved towards that model. We did that previous session. That project fell through, so money wasn't expended. But we want to make sure that things, when companies come to us and are pitching ideas, and we'd like them to come like this. I give credit to Northland Potato Village for the amount of time and energy that they put into attracting this type of project to not only Grand Forks, but the state of North Dakota. What they've done and how they've done it is a tremendous gap. But at the state level, we're really looking forward to seeing this project move forward. It's not only going to be beneficial to the city of Grand Forks, but surrounding communities as well. I think back to my time in Northwood, mid 90s, early 90s, I guess. Geez. But thinking back to the amount of potato production that left that area of Grand Forks County because of the decrease in dryland potato acres, this brings a possibility, an influx of acres to get us back up to the 150,000 that Mr. Phelan had referenced. So all in all, it's a tremendously exciting project. I look at it as a benefit to the state of North Dakota, this region, along the lines of the soybean crushing facilities that have been placed in Castleton and Jamestown. Tremendous opportunity for ag producers like myself. I won't be growing the potatoes, but I know that I do have some neighbors that are looking into and trying to figure out how they can be involved with this project. So it's a great opportunity. I thank you for your time and urge acceptance of this pilot program. So thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair Hagan, I'm member of the commission, Keith One, Grand Forks Region Economic Development Corporation. Two things really stated to me through the development of this project. Number one, the extreme enthusiasm of the agricultural community. It's fortunate to be at two different meetings at the Alaris Center where the data producers in the region came and really just asked Agristo to come to this region. Really wanted it. And we're seeking the help of the community and economic development community of the state to make that happen. The other thing is the truly competitive nature of this project. When I first was introduced to it through Andy and others, and the North Dakota Potato Growers Association, or Northland Potato Growers Association, Agristo was looking at Wisconsin, Minnesota, North Dakota, and some southern Canadian provinces. The next time that we had met, they had narrowed that down to Wisconsin and North Dakota. And when you get down to that level, you start getting into what that community and what that specific site can be. I won't share any numbers with you unless you really want them. But in Wisconsin, they're offering a free site, fully surveyed infrastructure without the need for rail. And those are real costs. So the land is owned privately, the infrastructure is special assessed, and in Grand Forks, they need to develop rail to get to the market. Mr. Phelan outlined the fact that they were offered 100% property tax exemption, which included the land. As a matter of fact, the state of Wisconsin changed state law in order to make that possible because the state of Wisconsin wanted it so bad. So we were competing, and I agree with Mr. Phelan, nothing wrong with Wisconsin and the folks there and the growers there. We've learned that we grow the best potato, and we need to overcome some challenges in the state, local community, potato growers, associations, and a number of people that Todd outlined to get us to where we are today. Appreciate your consideration of this project, and I, of course, strongly encourage your favorable consideration. Thank you.
Chairman Hagan, maybe I could call on Andy just to talk about the farmers and the meetings I've been at. People are excited, young people are excited to be able to stay on the farms. And if you worry about the graying of these farms, what I saw it's a lot of young people that are excited about their future. And Andy, if you could talk about that and other things that you see day to day on the farm.
You didn't tell me that. I'm right out of the field, so. Yeah, so very exciting project for everybody involved. The potato industry is very lucky for something like this to be considered and for this to happen. It's been a very long 3.5 years involved in this project for us. A long process, a lot of competition, as they said, at all levels, at the government level, at the potato level, and just in the whole process of it. It's a very large project. Agristo has very big aspirations for North Dakota. This plant is as of right now is slated to be the biggest plant in the United States by 2030. So huge potato production facility that they're going to be able to go along with the rest of our very successful potato industry that we have here currently. We're really trying hard to add new acres and add more production of potatoes. Potatoes are a very important economic driver in the communities. The potato is far exceeds any other crop that we grow currently. The economic spillover benefits that come off of potato can't really be measured, just from the simple labor, from the parts, from the fuel, from all the other things that come off of potato. The benefit of that crop is immeasurable. So very exciting part. Lots of young potato growers in the industry that are finally have a little bit of fuel for their fire, something for them to look forward to and to be ready to grow potatoes going ahead. So just a lot of really good things. We thank everybody, Grand Forks, county, state, everybody that's been involved in this process. Like I said, it's been a long process. very successful. Gristo was very excited to be here. The culture was one of the biggest things of all for them, that they really feel like this is their place. And we're very excited about that. So thank you for your consideration with it.
Can you remind me of your last name?
Alex.
Alex.
Yeah.
I know.
With that, Chair Hagan, any of us would be willing to take any questions. Follow up.
Somebody have any questions for her?
I'll move approval.
I would second.
You have first and a second. Any further discussion?
I just want to state that I talked to Mr. Phelan, and when they get to the point of a transportation study, Mr. West will be included in that study and go to all the meetings. We don't know now where all the potatoes are coming from, what direction, but just to make sure that the county roads, we know what's going on. It looks like most of the traffic is going to be on state or interstate, but we just want to make sure our county roads are properly protected. So he'll be involved in that meeting with the transportation study group whenever they get to that point, because they're considered years away still. But so Mr. West will be involved with those meetings. Just want to make sure I didn't do that.
Very good. Good. Well, would you recommend a roll call vote? Okay. All right, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Ridley?
Well, just for the record, I don't ever vote for anything, so I'll just don't feel any personal. Hope Gristo makes a ton of money. Hope the farmers make a ton of money. I personally will let you do my fair share to eat as many potatoes as possible, but I just can't see what happens to our taxpayers, and then we do this kind of thing. So nothing personal. It's a policy debate with me, but I wish them all the best, and I hope they all become multi-millionaires. Thank you.
Was that a no?
That was a no. A very polite no.
Yes.
Yes.
Mark?
Yeah.
And I'm also a yes. Motion passes 4-1 with Mr. Ricky dissenting. Okay. We'll move on to the North pilot. I think I'm going to give this opportunity to the two gentlemen that are here to speak on that behalf. Andrew, would you like to go first? When I come up and state your name and your opportunity.
Absolutely.
My name is Andrew Carlson. I live in Grand Forks and I own and operate Albatross Indoor Golf Club, which I founded in 2012. Thank you very much for your time on that. It was stated by the city that this application for the reserve is a test case for the other three applications that have also passed through the tax incentive pre-application stage. It has been critical to analyze this application, most importantly from a legal perspective. I wish I would have known what was going to be happening with the Memorial Village project when I was going through this similar process a few years ago. Had I known they would be directly competing as a tax incentivized project with my business, my livelihood, with the inclusion of golf simulators, I most certainly would have come forward at that time. I want to be very clear. I am 100% in favor of the free market, anyone having the right to compete with my business or with any other business in town. What I do not support is forcing existing businesses to compete with new or expanded tax incentivized businesses. This is what can potentially occur with this project in question this evening with the reserve, and most certainly is proposed to happen with multiple of the other proposed developments, which this one was said to be a test case for. The primary question we should be asking, how is this incentive even being considered when it contradicts the guidelines laid out in North Dakota Century Code 40-57.1, which is where these incentives are derived from? This chapter states, quote, "It is the intent of the Legislative Assembly that political subdivisions and the State Board of Equalization, in their determination of whether the tax exemptions authorized by this chapter shall be granted, shall give due weight to their impact and effect upon existing industry and business, to the end that an unfair advantage shall not be given to new or expanded enterprises, which is to the substantial detriment of existing enterprises." End quote. This chapter of North Dakota Century Code is what authorizes the use of all of these property tax incentives for new and expanding businesses. And this includes the pilot program. The topic of competition applies to the entire chapter of North Dakota Century Code 40-57.1, again, where these incentives are derived from. With the inclusion of amenities, it is to the substantial detriment of other existing enterprises. If they include golf simulators, like Memorial Village has done, and now as multiple other developments proposed to do, then it would most certainly be to the substantial detriment of existing enterprises, one of which being my existing business, Albatross Indoor Golf Club. It may also be to the detriment of gym and fitness studios, or coffee shops, or spas, or bowling alleys, or many other possible businesses now or in the future. Northridge can verbally assure me or say to you or the city they don't intend to include golf simulators in their developments.
But this do not compete aspect needs to be made officially binding in these tax incentive agreements. The ability to compete with other existing businesses to their detriment needs to be addressed contractually within these tax incentive agreements. Or these tax incentives should not be granted for North Dakota Century Code. A great example of what can happen here with this project is this. I can show you a screenshot I can share with you from the district's Facebook page. The district is an apartment complex in Grand Forks owned by Northridge. The Facebook post states, quote, amenities include a state-of-the-art gym that will make you cancel your gym membership, end quote. That's great in a free market. Northridge having that ability to compete, being able to market their business as they see fit, but that is not acceptable if it is going to compete or to occur in a tax incentivized project. A local existing gym owner should not have to compete against their own tax dollars. A local indoor golf facility should not have to compete against their own tax dollars. No existing business should have to compete against their tax dollars. And North Dakota Century Code is already telling us that, but our city leadership has yet to listen. Even though a local small business owner has been telling them very respectfully for nearly 2 months that these proposed tax incentivized apartment complexes and mixed use developments either potentially can or more likely will be to a substantial detriment of his business. After I presented my case at City Council on June 16th, during my allotted 5 minutes, there seemed to be some confusion among city staff and some of our elected officials in regards to what competition is and how it would be monitored. I'm happy to have the opportunity now to help clear up any confusion. Here are 3 areas where confusion seemed to have crept in. A fourth in relation to other mixed-use developments, of which this Northridge project is not, also came up, but we can discuss that if needed in the future. The first one was that it was stated these tax incentives are not being provided for the amenities in question. The incentives are for the apartment units, not for the amenities. Absolutely, the incentives are being given to these amenities. The amenities are part of the overall apartment complex. They're in the project, owned and operated by the developer. Specifically, Northridge for the reserve allocates 11% of their operating costs to amenity costs. Second, it was stated these amenities in question are only available to the residents of the apartment complexes. They aren't available to the public. Yes, they're available to the residents, but they're also available for the residents' guests, friends, family. The idea of these amenities and complexes is to promote a community feel where residents don't have to get out and about in the community as often. The amenity provided is most definitely competition for existing operators such as Albatross. The cost is factored into the apartment rental rates, if not as an additional amenity fee. So the amenities are most certainly being paid for in some fashion. And if you just look at a complex like this Northridge proposal, 155 units, so maybe 300 to 500 residents, and then friends and family of those residents, that's a very large reach. Even if it's just residents, under 300 people, still a very large reach when talking about a niche market in a small 60,000 population community. These amenities are part of the incentive. They should not be allowed to be incentivized when they compete to the detriment of existing businesses. And the third one, specifically with the golf simulator component, it was stated, oh, it's only one simulator being installed as an amenity. That isn't to the detriment of an existing simulator business. Well, yes, it certainly is. One simulator represents 12.5% of my current capacity at Albatross. So at that level, a capacity that I worked 13 years to grow into. It took 9 years to grow into 4 simulators. So at that level, it would have even represented 25% of my capacity. When this happens, it has a major impact. I should not have to compete with a tax incentivized competitor. Other businesses, Red Ray Lanes, pickleball offerings, such as Play It, or tax funded addition via the New Ultra Sports Complex, or gyms such as Anytime Fitness, shouldn't have to compete against their tax dollars either at any level. Other private businesses in the area have added in 1 golf simulator, and some have been added 2, but even just the single simulator additions had a major impact on Albatross. These examples weren't tax incentivized, so you didn't see or hear me coming to the city or any taxing entity to complain. Just a few last items, and I'll wrap it up. Why was Simplot approached by the city prior to pushing the Agristo application through to confirm Simplot did not view Agristo as a competitive threat? I see nothing in North Dakota Century Code that states a business at my scale, merely pennies to the dollar of what Simplot or Agristo does, is afforded less consideration of the do not compete parameter. Why wasn't I approached with any of these tax incentives applications? Or at a minimum, why now over a 2-month period haven't I been heard when I'm clearly stating that these projects represent tax incentivized competition to the substantial detriment of my business? Because I heard this mentioned by our mayor last week, I'd just like to address it proactively. When discussing the amenities topic and how do we find competition, The question is if we need to consider a washer and dryer being provided in these apartment units or for the complex as competition for local laundromats. Quite frankly, I thought that was insulting to attempt to diminish the validity of my argument for an example such as that. Clean clothes are a necessity. I think we can all agree upon that. It ranks up there with shelter, food, water. I don't think many of us or any of us would be able to hold meaningful employment if we didn't have clean clothes. A tenant in an apartment complex having access on site to have clean underwear in a timely manner is much like a tenant having access to a refrigerator to keep their food cold. These examples are not matters of discretionary income, such as the accessibility of a golf simulator, or a pickleball court, or a high-end gym, or a fancy coffee bar. Again, it's unfortunate this would even be used as an example or an argument, but there you go. Also, I wish I could have the dozens of other business owners and rental property owners and longtime residents who have said to me they are 100% in agreement with me, and they support me in my efforts through this process to be up here along with me, echoing these sentiments. But many owners are fearful of retaliation or of harm or ramifications to their business, or just the perception that may come along with speaking out in our small town of Grand Forks. I respect the right to be in support of me in the shadows, but I do hope you realize there are many others who feel just as I do. I want to reiterate and leave you with this. I and no other existing business in the community of Grand Forks should have to compete to its detriment with a tax incentivized new or expanding business. Again, for North Dakota Century Code, where these tax incentives are all derived from, quote, the tax exemptions authorized by this chapter shall be granted, shall give due weight to their impact and effect upon existing industry and business to the end that an unfair advantage shall not be given to new or expanded enterprises, which is to the substantial detriment of existing enterprises, end quote. Thank you very much for your time. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have tonight or at any point in the meeting or down the road. Thanks.
Next.
Yeah, it won't be as good as he was. Okay, I'm just here to talk about,
Will you state your name real quick?
Oh. Bob Coward.
Thank you.
Grand Forks. First, I'm wondering why the county board or the city or schools are even considering giving tax increment financing to private developers. That's my first point. Because when we were working, we never got any money. I mean, when we own apartments, we're not getting any money. We're not getting any response from the city. What are they going to do for us? They're just going to take care of these 2 individuals, 3 individuals. That's it. That's my first question. Okay, there's no benefit to this at all. At all. The only thing that is benefiting is the developer. That's the only person that would benefit. The taxpayer is going to pay the taxes, and your taxes are going to increase over the 15-year period that they want free money, right? So not only in today's numbers, these numbers are going to go higher as costs increase for the county. That's going to be spread about across everyone but these individual projects, because they have the blessing of not paying any property tax or an adjusted tax. So I guess my biggest question is, how is it that the city or the county is developing an unfair playing field here by supporting these guys financially? I mean, we can't, as a property owners or multi-family owners, I can't just go raise my rents $100 or drop them $100 either way. So roughly, what Northridge is going to get out of this is about 15 million over the 15 years at 180 and 60%. Is that their benefit?
Yes, 500, 580, 560 for 15 years.
Yeah, so it's about 15 million bucks. Is that correct?
I don't know.
Sure, I got called. Okay, so we're gonna provide a private developer $12 million. Basically, you're just putting it in their pocket. The reason they can't do it is because their costs are too high So you have an option, either you drop your costs, decrease your expenses, and build the project. Or the other option is to go ask for free money. Well, I'm completely and totally against this, and I know I'm definitely not the only multifamily owner in Grand Forks. I'm the only one standing there. But it's ridiculous that we should even be asking our residents, or even me, I'm gonna pay taxes to them now. But when I pay my property taxes, my taxes go up. Well, they're not paying taxes, my taxes go up, right? So then we've got like 4 projects like this. The Memorial Village was a joke. Because they push that through very simply. And that costs the city of Grand Forks taxpayers over the 20 years about $24 million. Approximately. That comes out of everybody's pocket and goes into the developer's pocket. It's not a great or good deal. It's not for the general public. It's a private developer that's coming in and says, I can build this, but I need money. Well, how many other people would do this if Grand Forks was advertising that they give tax benefits away? It's a cart and a horse deal. It just seems fast backwards to me. That's. But what's really gonna hurt is having to write a check that I know basically goes into the developer's pocket because he's not paying taxes. So asking the general public of Grand Forks and Grand Forks County to pay for someone else's development is crazy. I don't even know how it got this far. But those are my.
Sorry. Where we have.
I just had a couple of questions, but it doesn't seem like we get answers. Is that not the appropriate
I
forum
mean,
for this?
we'll let it as time allows,
Okay.
but
All right, I'll sit down.
you have some comments.
Yeah, I can respond.
Yeah, you want to look according to.
Yeah, John Miscavige, Northridge Construction. So, the first comments where they state that we don't charge for our amenities is completely false. We charge $300 bedroom, which basically is what pays for all those amenities for the tenants. And Bob's math on the tax isn't even close. If you just.
What is it?
We'll just take, if we were to pay $350,000 over 20 years, that's $7 million.
You got a $37 million big project
Yes.
and you come up with 350 grand a
If
year?
we take time here, can we scroll down? You can read the numbers off.
Maybe I,
Okay.
just to get things, I think we'll have this time, but if I could jump in. If I could summarize
That
the
doesn't even make
project,
sense.
we also have, we have Michaela Hewitt.
You mean with the credit?
Is our.
Gentlemen, if you guys want to have a side conversation outside of time, but.
I'll just summarize the project. Michaela Hewitt is online. And she's our financial advisor from Baker Tilly, who has reviewed this project, and she'll give you reasons why the recommendation is in front of you. Again, the Reserve by Northridge Construction, we are having these reviewed, and Ms. Hewitt is reviewing several of them. The reason why we're concerned is that our vacancy rates are very low, less than 2%. I just went over what's going to happen with the grease stuff during construction, after construction. We have opportunities at University of North Dakota. We have opportunities at Grand Forks Air Force Base and Grand Sky. Over the last 2 years, we've had no building permits taken out for multifamily. So it gave us great concern, is if we don't have housing, we don't have economic development, we can all sit here and do nothing, or we can try to analyze things and move the community ahead. So that's why where we started here as we move forward. This project is 155 units with underground parking. It's proposed to start later this summer, fall, and be completed in March of 2027. The location is east of the Sanford Tank is the location. Ms. Hewitt will go over the tax incentive, but we're not giving the developer any money. The pilot agreement will have them defer some of the taxes that we pay over the 15 years until year 16, but nobody's giving anybody any money. So under year 1 through 5, was proposed, and Michaela will give you all the particulars of how she came to this recommendation. So it's a 15-year, if you just average it out, it's 80%. So year 1 through 5 would be 100%. Their total taxes they would pay is, we estimate at $16,000. To the county would be an additional $4,100 during that year, because we're going to tax the land. We estimate the value of the land at $1 million, with $27 million of additional improvements for the building itself. Year 6 through 10, which would be at 80%, we're estimating the taxes that would start in year 6 would be at an additional tax revenue of $110,000, which for the county would be an additional $27,000. And then in years 11 through 15 would be at 60%, and the total taxes they pay is $214,000, and for the county that'd be $51,000. And then in year 16, our estimate for the full taxes for 100% would be $535,000. With Grand Forks County share of $134,000. So in this case, we're trying to build the tax base. We know with our tax caps, we got to grow the economy. These two projects are trying to grow. In this case, we're trying to have housing so that we can continue to grow our economy. I know there's been comments on Memorial Village. Thank goodness we have Memorial Village, because I don't know where the UND students go. We've had an increase of over 500 students. Last year, they're expecting another 500 students in addition. And guess where they're staying right now? Memorial Village too. That's going to get complete. Without that, we wouldn't be able to accept the students. Challenge we have, the Grand Forks Air Force Base is not going to build housing. Grand Sky's not going to build housing. The University of North Dakota has been slow to build housing. And so here we are in the city trying to incentivize private development to move these forward. And maybe with that, I could defer to Michaela. She reviewed the application and she can give you some of the reasons why the industry is where it is today and why we're not seeing developers that used to be able to do what they used to do. So I defer to see what she.
Michaela, you have the floor.
Thank you. Hopefully you can hear me okay. I will give a short presentation of the financial analysis that we completed for the city in reviewing the request submitted by Northridge for the proposed 155 unit project. The project total development cost is about $37 million. The proposed financing is roughly 70% debt financing, 30% equity financing. That translates into about $26 million for debt financing and $11 million for equity financing, or equity investing as the remainder. The analysis that we did in reviewing the with and without the tax exemption pilot is that without the financial or without the tax exemption, the projected cash flow, we looked at the operating lease rates, revenues from the project, the operating expenses, and then the net operating income as generated to support debt service. And without the property tax exemption, the cash flow would not be sufficient to support the debt financing at that 70% level, or $26 million. The minimum debt requirements, current interest rates about 6.5%, and minimum debt coverage is 1.3 times. So without the property tax exemption, that 1.3 times debt coverage would not be met, meaning that it would require a reduced amount of, and from that standpoint, with cash flow to support the level of equity investment that would be needed for the project. And the initial request from the applicant was for an up to 20-year, 100% property tax exemption. The recommended amount, as Mr. Phelan described, is more of a step-down blended exemption with 100% over the first 5 years when the project is is finishing completion. Is having, up and emissions, would occur from years 6 through 15. At which point then the tax exemption would, go away. And the other basis for that recommended step down is at full exemption. That was more than what the project, would need based on the projected rate of returns. As compared to doing that step down, it provided it provided two results. One, sufficient cash flow to be able to support the debt finance, as required for the project, and two, returns to the investor. That would allow the project to proceed. An ability of projects to
Hey, Michaela, we're having a hard time hearing you.
generate sufficient revenue.
We're having a hard time hearing you. Keep breaking up a little
Sorry.
bit. Are you able to, I don't know if you're on headphones or if you're in a spot that doesn't get very good service, but you're breaking up quite a bit.
Madam Chair, is the feed bad on my end, or is everybody having a hard time hearing her?
Everyone is having a hard time hearing
All
our.
have-
Same on my end, Commissioner.
Oh, all right. Michaela, are you back with us? And she's down again. Maybe we need to move on from her.
I think that,
Portion.
to summarize, without the incentive, the project won't move forward. From a debt and equity perspective, they're not going to be able to get their bank financing, and nobody with cash is going to invest in the project. And so as part of this, that's why the incentive is what it is. I think the other thing is it allows the developer to grow in over the 15 years to be able to absorb the full taxable value. It's true to say that there are other projects that we're reviewing from Dakota Commercial. The domain is probably the next one you would see. I'm not sure what that is going to look like, but that's going to be in or around where the new zero is planned on South Washington and in 47th, so in the general area. That's going to be another similar complex that'll have about 155 units with similar amenities too. I don't know what the answer is going to be on that. So when I talk about the test case, it really was, why aren't we getting multi-family units? We have low, we don't have units out there. And so we asked Ms. Hewitt with the developers to bring what's going on in the industry. And I think overall this project won't move forward. We will not have other projects move forward. And at some point, people are going to say, we can't find housing. And likely the city of Grand Forks, because we have more needs, whether it's infrastructure, land, working with developers, we can help support the private sector in building housing. There aren't going to be other communities that are going to be able to build kind of housing we're going to need to grow our region. So that's why we're here in front of you with this recommendation to move this project forward. And Mr. McCavick had a question about it, the project he's planning. I don't think he's planning a simulator in his building. I think he's planning an outdoor pool and other standard amenities that you would see.
Yeah, comment.
Before, Ms. Morrison, could you flip back? I'm gonna do some math while you guys. Could you flip back to the one that has the yellow highlight up for the Northridge? I didn't get a chance to jot the page numbers down. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to, I'm gonna add up that real quick, that the 15-year total, but I gotta look at the numbers again. There you go. All right, thank you. Sorry.
Hi, Brandon Towers, resident. Yeah, I think the biggest comment takeaway is the cost of goods for building something like they're talking about is pretty egregious. It's kind of crazy. So the actual numbers of this business, I have no idea. And, you know, the $12 million, yeah, how that affects his business, profit margin, stuff like that, not sure. But I don't think that tax incentive should be at like, whether it's 1 or 5 or 6, you know, whether it's like, in that example, should be at the detriment to the existing business. And someone set the code and, but yeah, who interprets that code? Is it the commissioners that like you guys interpret it, or is it the state attorney? You know, if we're gonna talk about speeding or a law like that, there's a person in the room that we can look to and be like, oh yeah, you probably are the best person to answer this question. I'm not sure who that is, and as far as it's a standard resident here or a business owner, how can we go through our busy lives and like have transparency and like who do we talk to? We reach out to you guys as the for Dana Sandy, you know, like I quickly got my question answered very quickly just by like a simple head nod, you know. So I definitely don't think there should be tax incentives for that are competitors to pre-existing businesses in town. That seems like wrong. And I'm also curious about the process using, I mean, I didn't know anything about the Simplot deal and the new business that you guys are bringing to town, potato growers. You know, like what was that process like? Did they go to Simplot or Simplot say, you know, I have no idea about that. But, you know, so what's your guys' process when you guys have those tax incentives and like researching the community and like having a pulse, which, you know, essentially are for us, you know, you're our voice. So I'm just curious about that process. And then, you know, obviously there's no retribution or now there's no going back and undoing what we did for tax incentives for other businesses. But, you know, looking forward, how can we have that transparency where we know that you're not going to give a tax break?
Just for the record, we are responding to a request. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Phelan or Ms. Wamstead, if it's 5 years or less on a property tax exemption, we have no say in the matter. The city does what it wants and we go along. If it's more than 5 years, then the city generates all the information because they bring it forward to us. So I'm just gonna talk to us as the county. So the city generates everything. They bring the information to us and then we decide if we wish to participate or not past the 5-year mark. Have I missed any? Am I wrong? Either one of you, if you want to correct me.
And I would say we have to get permission after 5 years for you and the school district.
Right.
The park district is contained within the city of Grant. Could look considered as being. I just wanted to highlight one thing. We were at the local government advisory committee with all the various taxing entities. The one thing we did discuss, because it is 15 years of, and the question is, well, what if Northridge refinances the project and instead of having 6.5% interest, they go down to 4.5%. The other step in here is that we, once the city council has their final public hearing, there's a development agreement that is approved for the city council with the developer. And those are some of the things that we talked about at local government. If there are things that change within that 15 years, that there's a, I'll call it a go back provision that we can go back and take a look if things do change and we want to modify the pilot agreement that we do have. So that there were discussion about the what ifs over this time period. And so Mr. Gostad was going to kind of look into that as part of looking at development agreement based on feedback that we got from the local government. Just wanted to follow.
You can make one more comment?
Very quickly, yeah.
Okay. I have to disagree with Mr. Phelan's comment. They're not giving anybody any money. By not paying anything, you're receiving, correct? I mean, you're benefiting. If you're not paying taxes, any property tax, is that correct? You would be getting a benefit. Right? And the other thing I have to say, or comment on is, would you as individuals invest your own personal money in this project where you have to keep paying and paying and paying for 15 years. This is not a very good deal. I don't know if we're at 2% for vacancy, but I know that giving away $12 million or whatever it is, and giving them an unfair advantage to compete against us or any other multifamily owner, it's not. Okay, thank you.
You have a question?
Yeah, I do. I guess I would just encourage you guys to question this vacancy rate. I've been asking for a couple months as far as where this 2% number comes from. And according to my research, it's from the Greater Grand Forks Apartment Association is the only data that's available. That's been over 4% for the last 4 years, steady. It just dropped in the first quarter of this year to 3.96, I think. And we have the B1 program here with the airmen of 800 to 1,000 airmen here temporarily for about 10 months. So it dipped a little bit, but I've never, and I asked the mayor on May 19th, I think it was, in a council meeting, said 2% as well. I tried to get clarity on that, but I would ask for transparency of where this 2% figure is coming from, because I haven't been able to find it. When I request that information, I haven't seen it. So I don't think our vacancy rate is where it's at. So I think we should have all the data if that's going to be the sales pitch of why we're doing this. And Baker Tilly, I've worked with them in an insurance claim. I mean, they're a third-party financial or accounting firm, consulting firm. They're not telling the city that this is good for the city. They're just telling us that it's unbankable, that it wouldn't work otherwise, like Bob said, through a normal banking process for a small business owner or a big business owner. So it's just a matter of saying it doesn't work without that. But the vacancy rate, since it was brought up, I think that should be questioned. I would recommend that. I just wanted to say that. And then, John, nice to meet you.
Yeah.
The amenity thing, you mentioned that I mentioned, I'm sure you're thinking about that. I was saying it up there, but there wasn't a cost. No, I know there's a cost for the amenities, either through your rental rates, through an amenity fee. So they're being paid somehow, but that's the competition factor. So I know they're being paid for some way or another by the end users. So I agree with you, and that's why it's competition. So thank you.
If there were questions this evening, is that what we're looking for? Okay. Currently, go ahead. Sorry.
I have some comments. I hate these things, just so you know. I mean, I hate them with a passion because
I do too.
I don't like getting people, I'm a leave me alone guy. And but when you get into the tax abatements, you force me to comment. I have to, because we're involved. So I just want to run through some things here. And my math could be off on this. I ran through real quick that it's that yellow thing that she's got up right now. I kind of looked at, I took a base of the first year, and so 5 years, roughly 500,000 off. And I rounded them off, so they're not going to be exact. Roughly 5 years of 400,000 and 5 years of 300. I came to roughly in the ballpark of 6 million. I don't know if you guys have, but I just want to get the number out there. So it's approximately 6 million in non-taxes that won't be paid for 15 years. I want to give my own personal history on this, because once again, I served in the council. After the flood, this started downtown, but we were subsidizing apartments. And every apartment building that got built downtown got some kind of deal. Some even got actual money. But we started downtown. Then now it's moved to UND, and now it's moving over the whole city. So what we're saying is, and I'm not debating so much that, but I'm being told that you can't build an apartment building in Grand Forks without the government helping you. And if that's true, we got bigger fish to fry. If our city's in that shape, that we can't build apartment buildings without the government being involved, whether it be building codes, whether it be planning and zoning, whether it be taxation, we have serious issues if we can't build a building, if the government won't get involved in it. If you go to page number, if you go to page number 56 on our stuff, it's page number 8 on the Baker Tilly report. It has got, that's not it. Must be, you go up or down. I'm looking, because it's got the vacancy rates in there. That's a picture. It's 56 on us, our page number. Oh, yeah, there we go. Okay. Maybe go down a little more past the picture. Well, in the report, it states that they have projected the business has a projected vacancy rate in the near future of 5% for apartments. And the Baker Tilly report has a forecasted average of 5.9% vacancy rate. That's what's in the report. I can't get it up there. I know it's on page 56 of our stuff and page 8 of the Baker Tilly. So a vacancy rate of 5 and 5.9 depends on which one you want to take. I'm very concerned about the precedent we're setting because there will be more people coming here. I'm very concerned about that. Okay, there you go. Can you scroll up a little bit more, Ms. Morstead? There, right there. We're forecasting future vacancy rates and growth of rental rates. The applicant assumed 5% for stabilized future vacancy rates, which is slightly lower than the forecasted average vacancy of 5.9%. So that's on page 8 of the Baker Tilly report. I'm concerned about the precedents we're setting. I'd love to have egg in my face, but I'm pretty confident we're going to see more people coming. The issue for the county is we're different than the school and we're different than the city. We are heavy, 5 more times, heavy, dependent on property tax. We don't have a per student pupil funding from the state. We don't have federal funding from the state. We don't have $34 million in sales tax revenue. We are extremely dependent upon property tax. Now, you could say 10, 15, 20 years down the road, we're going to have all this money. You are correct. How are we going to pay the bills till we get there, though? I don't live in the world of tax increases. Just so the potato plant knows, and any part, I'll never vote for a tax increase. So there's my incentive to you. I'll never vote to raise your taxes. But if we're not, we're going to cut at the neck, we're going to cut off our future growth money, new growth money. And so the only other option is going to be one or two. Raise taxes, or in my world, I'll cut meat off the bone on our budget. I'll go right down, I'll go to the meat. I'll cut meat, not fluff, because I'm not raising taxes. So my issue here is how till we get to that 10 or 15 or 20 year mark, how do we plan on paying our bills? If we're not going to have new growth, because we keep exempting it all out, we don't have that. All that's left is two things: raise taxes, cut meat, or a combination thereof. So I just want to make it clear this is seriously going to affect our budget much more than other entities. And I'll just close with this. There is no way in the world I would vote to raise taxes on 99.9% of the property owners in this county. So 1/10 of 1% can get a deal. I'll live with the ramifications of not voting for these things. I'm not doing it. And I'll be very blunt here. It is wrong to raise taxes on everyone else so somebody else gets a deal. And so if you can come up with a way to do this and not raise taxes, I'm all ears. But I got to see it. And if you look at the history of the last 25 years in this city county school park, I've seen tons of these deals come through. And what's the number one issue in this county and in the state? Property taxes. So apparently it hasn't been working. So once again, not pounding it. It's important. I am not anti-business. I am not I so much I want to make this a policy debate, but we are to represent the 100%. And I'm very concerned about our budget in the future, where we're going on, because we are really going to put our hands behind our back with our income if we keep going down this road, because they're not stopping. They're going to be lining up. So I just want to throw that out there. Thank you.
Again, this project will only deliver more revenue. If this project doesn't move forward, you have less revenue coming into the county. And you have no hope in years 10, 5, or year 6, 10, or 15, or 16 to get the larger growth. This project will not happen. Future projects won't happen. And so I just want to, on the record, say that. More revenue. Not a lot in the first 5 years than you do without the project. You have 0 without the project.
I would have to say my sentiment is the same as yours, Terry. I'm concerned about continuing to raise taxes on people, but my other concern is where are people gonna live when we have all of these businesses, we have Grand Sky, we have all these, we come and work in Grand Forks, but we don't have a place for you to live. And housing shortage in Grand Forks is nothing new compared to all the rural places out there. So this is a big decision. This is a big decision and I am not prepared to vote on this decision tonight. I don't know what the timeline is that we need to vote on this decision, but there's a lot of information. I would like time to digest it, to ask questions, and use some more discernment on what that decision is.
Madam Chair, I would make a motion, we table this to the next meeting.
Is that, Ms. Wong, I know you said that there is a time limit on these things, but.
Madam Chair, the board, I believe we have 30 days to make a decision, and if we do not.
It's an automatic yes if we don't vote.
Correct. That's
So we
why I'm
can't-
asking what the time. So is it based off of the date of this?
There's a letter in there you can check, but if we go past the date, it's an automatic yes. So we certainly don't want to do that because then you have no say. This is kind of a deal where if you wait, you lose.
6/9/25 is when it was signed.
Chair Hagan, is your next meeting on
July 15th.
July 15th?
Yep.
I think when I communicated with Commissioner Garrity, he thought this was a better meeting, because you have your budget 2 weeks from now. So we would have time, it's gonna be back at the city council on July 21st for the final public hearing. And so the meeting on July 15th is an opportunity.
Okay, so we're not missing any deadlines or anything. No one's gonna automatically say yes on our behalf. We will be, okay.
I saw
Very
it
good.
before we vote to table, because once you make a motion to second the table, then you can't talk anymore. So before we get a second, I just want to say this is, if we're gonna go down this road, for those who are gonna vote for it, this is my challenge to you. I want to see a budget plan that's gonna pay our bills when we have no new growth. And we're not gonna, if we say we're not gonna raise taxes and we're not gonna have any new growth for 15 years, I want to know how we're gonna pay our bills. That's a very fair question to ask. How are we gonna pay our bills? We're exempting, and there's more coming. So we're keep exempting these things out. How are we gonna pay our bills? I'd love to see that answer. And I will now second the motion to table.
Okay.
Very good. The first and a second, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed unanimously.
But just for clarity, for the audience, if you want to come back, it'd be 7:15. I just want to make sure they all know.
10:15.
Yeah, July 15th.
Very good. Okay. We are going to move on. Thank you, everyone, for coming.
Thank you, Andrew.
Sorry, that you.
Mine will be somewhat anticlimactic. Okay, I'm here just to give all of you just a really brief overview of what your roles and responsibilities would be in an emergency situation / disaster. Some of you have been through it. On a phone call with Commissioner Rosted, I realized that some of you haven't. And we haven't had a disaster for several years. I think our last declaration was COVID. I believe that happened in 2020. So it's been quite some time. So I just wanted to refresh memories, create new memories. It's a little bit challenging when we're not in an emergency to explain all of this because it can get really technical. Trust me when I tell you that when we are in emergency measures, you'll see a lot more of me and you'll hear a lot more from me. So not too less. Okay, so the first thing, I'm not going to read the document to you. You can read, it's pretty self-explanatory, but the first thing to remember is all disasters are local. They begin locally and they end locally. Okay. Regardless of how far they escalate, at the end of the day, the final responsibility is on the governing bodies of the jurisdiction. Both cities and counties can declare emergencies, but we cannot ask for a state declaration as a county unless we have declared. So if cities declare, so like if the city of Grand Forks declares, but we don't, they're not eligible for federal disaster declaration. So we would have to, because that's how it goes, city, county, state, federal. Okay, that's how it is today. I don't know what next week will bring. Things are kind of in flux right now. So that is how it works right now. So in peacetime, I guess we'll call it, I do a lot of monitoring and sending out preparedness information. So when we know we have a storm coming, you guys get a lot of emails from me about it's coming, whether it's winter or summer, it's coming. I have been affectionately dubbed the queen of gloom and doom for that very reason, because when people get my emails, they're never happy. So we send it all out, we put it on social media, we try to do as much informing as we can. During the storm, I'm in touch with the Weather Service, I'm in touch with PSAP, we're in touch with rural fire chiefs, to try and kind of scale what are the impacts of the storm. After the storm is when we gather damage reports. I will often text Andy, find out if his deputies are, are they seeing anything? Nick is a huge component of how much public infrastructure might be damaged. Roads, bridges, culverts, big dollar amount items. And then we also find out from fire chiefs if we have any private property infrastructure, trees on houses. Are we seeing injuries, that kind of thing. If we have significant damage to either the county's infrastructure or the cities within the county, I'll contact Mr. Ford and I'll tell him that I believe we need an emergency declaration. He will contact the chair, brief you. I will draft the declaration and then I usually submit it to State's Attorney Wamstead, and she goes through to make sure everything is legal and everything's in there. As the chair, you can sign a declaration for a 7-day period without the board. Okay, so if it's like right now we need to hurry up and do this, I can get you the declaration, you can sign it, it's good for 7 days. It's only good for 7 days until we can convene the board and then the board can vote on it. And then it's 30 days after that, okay? When that happens, then I become very connected to state BES. Because as it goes, local jurisdictions, so say the cities, they will do everything they can within their budgets to start responding and recovering from this. When they run out of resources, and it's generally money, they will contact the county and ask if we can augment that. Townships, small cities, I know Nick does a lot of assisting with them. Once the county starts coming up against, we're running out of resources also, then we go to the state and we say, well, we need some assistance. And then, so especially like in spring flooding time, when there's multiple counties that are flooding, the state runs out of resources pretty quickly too. They contact FEMA and they request an emergency declaration through FEMA. The federal declarations, those are called Stafford declarations. The Robert T. Stafford Act. It can be very complex, but basically it's also called a presidential disaster declaration. Minnesota is working on theirs right now to submit for the damages from the storm that thankfully missed us. So we, it's very complicated. Okay, so if we get a Stafford declaration, that brings in FEMA resources, whether that is money, people, equipment, whatever it is that we may need. We haven't had a large declaration like that for a very long time. But I can tell you that the recovery phase of any disaster takes the longest. We are still paying for the flood work that was done in 1996. So it can be years and millions and millions and millions of dollars. And there's always a cost share. Keep that in mind. You become involved more on, you'll be briefed during the response phase, but your role becomes more important when we get to recovery. So after we sign that declaration and we start getting into recovery and how is that going to look? Where are we going to expend the funds? How are we going to finance the project? Nick and Jana do the lion's share of public infrastructure recovery. I walked into Jana's office one day and she had files all over her desk because at one time we had 6 open disasters that Nick doesn't like to see my emails either because he knows that it's a lot of work because he has to try to fix the roads, the bridges and the culverts and then still do his daily stuff. So it gets pretty complicated. Our reporting structure, I have to be very in touch with state DES. I report through their EOC system, give them all the information that they need. Because when we start having to do damage assessment, that's where the money counts. And each state and each county of the state has a threshold, a dollar amount threshold that we have to meet before we can ask for, say, it to be included in a state declaration. But then what they do is they add up all of the county's damages, like in a spring flood, every county reports, they add all that up to see if we meet the state threshold. And that's how they determine if we're going to ask for a staff. So that's it in a very little nutshell. But I promise I won't be far away if something serious happens. And I'm sorry that you guys should have had this information when you were elected, but I am putting together binders for all of you that gives much more information. It'll give you the century code that governs every move I make. Chapter 12. But it'll have a lot of information in it, so can't sit with it.
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
can I speak to the madam at the podium?
You're good.
So Kari, I want to thank you for helping out with this, because this could just as easily have been us in Grand Forks County as it was in Enderlin or Bemidji. And I would not have known what to do. And so I will on the record say I called her to ask her, like, what is my role in this? Because I don't know. And so I really very much appreciate Kari putting this information together for us and addressing us, and making it extremely pithy and very concise. And so now I think, we all know what if our role is if something like that were to happen in Grand Forks County. So I want to thank you, Kari, publicly, and I appreciate you.
Thank you, Commissioner. I appreciate you too, and I'm sorry about your home. They did work very closely with the city of Bemidji. They did call that morning. Very dear friend of mine is emergency manager for Beltrami County, and they were looking for resources. So we did work with them for a little while on that day. There's just no words to describe what happened, and he's very correct. Life will never be the same. And that's the thing about disasters. People talk about, let's just get back to normal. There is no getting back to normal after something like that. There will be a new normal one day, but don't ever go back. Okay, I'm going to be quiet. Any questions?
Not as much a question, but a comment. We need to remember that within our county, we did have a massive tornado in the city of Northwood, tornadoes. And I believe with the exception of a church and the hospital, they were about the only two facilities that were saved. Everything else was either damaged or total. And so we have dealt with it in the county. I can't speak, I wasn't on the commission at that time, and I can't speak about what everything that had to be done. Obviously, Northwood has a new school in their community. And you know, they went through it and were very diligent in trying to maintain their population and trying to maintain all the people. There was one death. The one death was in a mobile trailer home, and they did go to that individual and ask that individual to leave because of the storm, and he refused. Not to say that, but there was one death that did occur. And so we just need to remember that Northwood has been through this, and we have some history in working with tornadoes in our previous history. It's just something that we probably would need to research a little bit to understand what really we did at that time.
disasters tend to bring out the very best in humanity, for sure. I know, I wasn't here when Northwood happened, but I have heard stories of the mutual aid. The public information officer in the city of Grand Forks spent a great deal of time out in Northwood doing all of their public information campaign and giving updates to the media and all of that. So, I mean, this is the resource hub in our region. And it's very rare that you get one jurisdiction impacted by something like that. Generally, there's more than one, and it can result in a competition for resources. And, you know, we as a region have talked at length about that. And how would we respond? Some have bigger challenges than others, but all of them look to, you have all the stuff there in Grand Forks. So we're always prepared for those requests when they come.
Thank you very much for the information.
Your scope proposal.
You just did not get in your packets as, Mr. Ford and I have been conversing with, 82S on the, proceeding forward. I believe Mr. Ford has approached at least Commissioner Bierke on this subject once again. And it addresses the need to, if we're proceeding forward with plans for the old jail, the old youth assessment center, some of the things that the assessment proposal from 82S will allow us to do is determine our electrical needs within that facility, what we have to do in order to update to offices and usable space again. It also, it addresses more than electrical, plumbing needs, HVAC needs, separation determination if we didn't rehab the entire facility as opposed to just the area that juvenile detention is occupying now, as well as some of the imperative things with the big remodel or even a small remodel in consideration of ADA accessibility and what needs to be accommodated there and changes. If we move forward with this, having this assessment gives us a better opportunity to create an RFP to engineers to draft the proposal to what our needs and wants will be in order to properly bid this project without a slew of change orders that would come in and that would drive up the end cost as well. The fee that we visited about a few weeks back, previous meeting, in this proposal drafted by E2S would be not to exceed $20,000. I did talk with Ms. Morstead. She didn't have a final determination of where that would come from if you determine to move forward with this. But as this conversation continues to move forward with revitalizing and reusing and remodeling that space, we need to make some determination to put the next step in the process if we're going to continue pursuing this down the road. And this proposal would be the initial step in that assessment and getting things there.
I just want to make sure I'm clear on what we're going to vote on here in a minute. So what we're looking at is the, what I'm going to call, there's two areas. It's the small area closest to Ms. Momstead's area, and then the bigger area that has Albert Crest. Okay, so we're looking just at the smaller area that you two went through with those blueprints and kind of offices, conference rooms, whatever. That's the area that this project is looking at. Is that correct?
So this proposal is a not to exceed on an hourly rate to do the assessment for the entire facility at this point, but we could trim that back because we didn't have clear direction on, is it going to be the full facility? Is it going to be part of the facility? And we have to create that line in the sand where that remodel would stop at. There's some walls, there's some access points that would have to go in on that. So that not to exceed $20,000 is for the entire space to assume its assessment for remodel potential.
Okay, what I want to bring up is that, Ms. Wamson, Ms. Krzyzewski had blueprints and they went through and made what we looked at. If we go towards the jail, the reason why I don't want to do anything there is because we don't know what's going to happen. Why would we look at that and say, okay, let's put offices in here, and then 7 years from now, the state says another judge is coming, and now we have to rip those offices out and build a big courtroom and a jury deliberation room and a conference room, blah, blah, blah. And so we spent money to even studying it, to me, is not appropriate this time. Because frankly, I think we just need to fix the roofs to stop the damage. Go in there and clear all the garbage out of there, clean it up and make it so it's suitable storage. And then as time goes along, whoever's here, it could be so far down the road, none of us are even here. They would then decide, it could be a 2-story building. I mean, we don't know because we don't know what's going to happen with the state. If we start sinking money into it, we literally could build something that we then come back a few years later and just rip it all out again because we built the wrong thing. So what I would like to see us is, I mean, it's up to 20,000, so that will cover it. It just be what I call the small area, whatever name you two want to put on it. You know what I'm talking about. Have him go through that, scope it out, get a construction, and then we could look at getting an engineer in there and bidding it out and see what we want to do. I don't want us to go in that area where I just think it would be a waste of money to do something we don't know what's going to happen.
Yep, I agree.
So this 20,000 was including everything, right? Not just the small area.
As it's drafted, it's covering the entire facility with a sum not to exceed that. So we can have, what we're looking for is the approval to proceed with this or approval to proceed with an altered motive. And so I can bring a different proposal. I can bring an altered proposal from AE2S in what would be in clear direction forward, because as Mr. Rusted is still on as well, he had some desire to want to entertain looking at the whole thing as a remodel perspective as well. So when he walked through with me and so we have as the option, but is that the direction we're going to go, or where are we going to?
Madam Chair?
Go ahead, Mark.
So here was my thought process, and I'd like to see what my counterparts think about this. So if you're talking about $20,000 to have them look at the building and give us options, if they only look at a portion of it and not all of it, I mean, I'm thinking they can give us plans A, B, C, and D for very similar money to that $20,000, because this is the world I live in. And so, I mean, half that money that we're spending is to get them on the site. And so I feel like we should probably just have them get with Bill, Mr. Grishevsky, and just throw some options around, and what Bill and possibly Haley thinks is correct. And I don't know. I mean, I'd like to see them assess the entire building. For a lot of reasons. For one, if we have them come back a second time, it's going to be another 20 to look at the other half of the building. That's just the way this works. So if we're gonna have them walk through the doors, I'd like to have them look at all of it and survey all of it. because the bulk of our savings will be in having them come just one time rather than 2 or 3 additional, times.
Yeah, my question on that is, so when you say look at, I don't have an issue if we're just gonna look at to make sure at the HVAC, the electrical and stuff. I don't want any designs. I don't want any floor plans. I don't want any of that stuff, that second half, because we have no idea what's gonna go in there. I guess if they're gonna go in there just to say, well, if you do anything, your HVAC's gotta be replaced, or this electrical, that's fine, because that's useful information and will always be good. I just don't want them to start busting out the thing and start making designs for something we have no idea. So I guess is that what we're looking at? He's just gonna check out what I would call it, of it to make sure where we're at?
Well, Commissioner Bierke, I don't, so I don't like to be like half pregnant on things with buildings, right? You knew I struggled with the vote to even put the roof on it because I wasn't sure what we were going to do with it. And so we're roofing the whole thing to keep it clean, to keep it dry. And since that is now a thing, I'd like to at least explore options to where we can turn that building into a profitable building, and whether that means CVIC, whatever. I mean, I don't know where the money would necessarily come from. That would be kind of a Colleen / Haley Wamstead question. But if we're gonna do it, I don't want to do it halfways. You know what I'm saying?
And $20,000 is not going to get us construction documents to run off of and be ready for public bids. That we still have requests for proposal, drafting those processes, all of those things that come after this. This really gets us the bones of the structure, the electrical, the mechanical, the plumbing, what needs to be, what are our final numbers looked at to that cost. It gives us a real cost analysis report of what it's going to be.
Well, Bill, am I wrong in my assessment that it's either going to be $20,000 to have them do the entire building, or likely right around 15 to just do that little part?
I don't know what just the small part would cost. I don't want to throw a number out there that we don't have provided to us from AE2S, but we're not to an as-built document yet with the feasibility and assessment. This is where your electrical coming into the building can meet the needs. Here's what you're looking at, the hurdles that you're looking at in the construction in either using this area or using the entire building. There's a lot of unknowns when we are going from one of the things that Commissioner Rusted and I talked about in walkthrough with him. He said, what do we have for power in here? So we have power in here that was adequate for a jail. Is it going to be adequate for a complete office space, or do we look at new service upgrades coming from the transformers outside? Those are unknowns that I can't answer. Those are what electrical engineers bring to us with that recommendation. That's what brings us that information and that assessment.
Yeah.
Those things all take their time, take their money, their resources, not necessarily their money, but their time is money, right? And they provide us that information to say, right here in their first sentences, they say the structure, nothing wrong with that building.
So I guess I would like the whole thing analyzed after having walked through it. But obviously I'm one of 4, so I will lean on my loved ones that sit next to me and see what they think. But personally, that's where I'm at.
Mr. Ford has his hand up for a while.
Yes, thanks, Madam Chair. I think some of what I was gonna say got clarified, but I just want to clarify for the commission's peace of mind. So I would agree with Commissioner Rustin and Mr. Grzeszewski. The county's been discussing what to do with this building for a very long time. It's quite a quagmire. And I know the commission has been talking about long-range capital improvement planning. So I think getting the 20,000 for the entire building, that's the yak, and then the old jail, knowing what we can and can't do with it. We can't, we're not talking about any drawings. We're not talking about any plans. We're not talking about putting an RFP out. We need Mr. Clevin to come in and say what you can and can't do. I think we can certainly pare it down into option A, B, and C, like Commissioner Rusted said. My understanding of where the commission's going with this is right now to focus on the space that Ms. Spain in her department currently resides in, which is, we'll just refer to it as the YAC. And that's the part that's been marked up by Ms. Wamstead. So that's what Commissioner Bierke is alluding to, is that specific area that Robin's about to vacate. There's the most potential of turning that into maybe some office area. I don't want to oversell the fact that, yes, we have had government entities reaching out to lease space. Don't get me wrong. It's not enough to move the needle. We're talking, 2-3 offices, $6,000-$7,000 a year. So please keep that in mind. But my recommendation, ma'am, is do the whole building, do it in different plans, like Commissioner Rusted said, so that Mr. Clevin can tell Mr. Grzeszewski what we can and can't do with that building. And until we have that assessment, we can't put out an RFP because we don't know what we can do. And we can't ask for any drawings or blueprints without that assessment, because right now we just don't know what we can do. But looking at a long range, like Commissioner Rusted said, we at least know some options as we start planning capital improvements 5-10 years out.
I do have a question of Ms. Morissette. Do we still have money left in the capital improvement fund for this year? Because I'm assuming that's where it should come from.
So are we good with doing this whole $20,000?
Second.
First and second, any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed unanimously.
Madam Chair, what was the motion?
To go ahead with the $20,000.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, I'm in favor. I couldn't hear.
Madam Chair, members of the commission, thanks for your time this evening. Just a couple things. I did hear a comment about, we were talking about emergency response for tornadoes. I did respond to the Northwood tornado, and I think that the best thing the commission can do is trust the leaders that you have in place to do their jobs and support us when we make requests. So we're trained, you're in good hands. Don't fret, we will take care of you, not if that happens, but when it happens. So moving on to the agenda item. I have a request to sign a grant that has already been approved by the county commission, but the state has awarded the sheriff's office an additional $55,410 in this grant.
Move approval.
Chair's permission to sign.
What was, not that I'm saying no, but what was the reason for the increase?
There's additional funds that became available,
That's an extra
and the Rapids County Sheriff's Office knows how to utilize.
Fantastic. Okay.
So,
Second, okay, we have a first and a second, any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed unanimously.
Thank you. I do have a couple things that are not on the agenda. The sheriff's office. Sheriff's office. Actually, I told Nick I'd keep it short. I don't want to, we're getting close to premium buffet fees right now. So. The sheriff's office officially moved June 30th. The good guys in Brown Moving Company moved over most of it this weekend. And yesterday we did open officially.
So we still have a lot of work to do over there, sorting boxes, unpacking, whatnot, get settled in, but doors are open. Feel free to stop down, take a peek, now that we're living in there and see what you think. I can't thank Evelyn and her team enough. We wouldn't be in there if it wasn't for Evelyn, so. She'd never admit it, but I'm pretty sure she was probably bedridden and she came over to fix things and work with Midcon and all kinds of other people, so. Thank you, Evelyn, very much. My computer works, my phone works, like, what else do you need? So, huge help. Again, tonight, if you watch 10 o'clock news, they usually have a picture of a live stream of the US Capitol in DC. If you happen to see that tonight, there'll be a flag flying over there and it's being flown for the grand opening of the sheriff's office. So that'll be sent to Grand Forks County Sheriff's Office here, hopefully in the next couple weeks. In other news.
Give the address, kind of let people know where it's at.
Sure.
If they're watching,
Sure, yeah. So we are located at 3005 Heartland Drive. And that is just west of I-29 and just north of 32nd Avenue South. We have great neighbors. A couple greeted us today, which is kind of nice. But they're right next to Egg Country, Farm Credit Services, Northdale Oil, is our neighbor just off to the west side. Just two more quick things, if I may, Mr. West. We did finish the captain process at the jail, and we appointed Jody Hildy as the correctional captain. Her first official day is today. So we now have some direction, and we're moving forward on several fronts over there, and I look forward to her leadership in that position. Besides that, the only last thing that I guess I have is I hope everybody has a very safe and eventful 4th of July. Thank you.
Right, Mr. Watt, you're up. Stick to the agenda.
Madam Chair, members of the board, got a few things for you, but first off,
Nick, you're on the clock.
yeah, we did plow debris in Northwood for that storm, I'm told. Okay. 3 things on the agenda, and these are kind of odd ones. All 3 of them sort of are here, but the first one would be Manville Avenue. So that's the concrete, about half-mile concrete paved road in town. It's an old state highway that the DOT abandoned after they built the interstate. And there's been a lot of questions as to who owns it. And to my knowledge, the DOT still owns it, but they abandoned it, so they're not claiming it, and they haven't put any resources into it since the interstate was built. I had a meeting with the DOT, City of Manville, Ferry Township, as to what the future of that is or what it could be. Of course, nobody wants it, and nobody wants to claim it. I personally think the county should not own it, but that's not the intent of what we do. Our intent is to build a road from Manville to Gilby and provide that connectivity. However, it's been expressed to me that neither the City of Manville wants it and Ferry Township doesn't want it either, so it would stay in limbo for perpetuity. I think it has for the last 50 years, since about 1970 when the interstate was built. The offer was made to us if we wanted to obtain ownership of it, the DOT would deed it to us, and both the city and the township would offer a third cost option for us. The road does need some work, culverts replaced, etc. Trying to really paraphrase here. My personal opinion would be that we try to go after a flex fund grant. Both the director of the DOT at the state and our district engineer have supported that verbally anyway. And actually both township and the city is verbal commitments to the third each, but I'm here to the board to just see what your thoughts would be as if we went after some kind of proposal like that. That would be a half a mile of county road with we'd have to form agreements with the city and the township for future maintenance and possibly getting a flex fund grant to fix it up. That would be a one-time deal.
Is it just a paved portion or where it goes into gravel?
Well, the gravel portion, so south of the concrete pavement, is a Ferry Township road. So to date, the last 50 years, the county has plowed the snow because we gotta go, we plow Perry Township, right? And we just absorb it into the township of the city and a half mile but now it's getting to a point where culverts need to be replaced, the pavement's busting up. This spring, we patched some potholes in it and we charged the county
So
33.
the state, wants to deed it. What do they want for it? Do they want money?
No.
Okay.
The-
Just deed it.
Give it away.
Oh, yeah.
If you want to give it away, they want us to take care of it. That's,
Yeah. Yeah, and they would be willing to do that if we wanted. So,
Well, you guys maintain it anyway, so.
the issue is 50-something years, no, we just can't go like this. It's the taxpayers in that area, they're paying gas tax, they're paying county property tax, they're paying township tax, they're paying to have this road maintained and no one wants to take it. And that's just unacceptable. That's just not right. That's not good government.
No.
So what I would like to have is with Mr. West working with Ms. Wanstead to draw up an agreement where contingent upon the state providing a flex fund, which is what, 80 to 90% they pay?
well, it's very interesting you bring that up because there isn't a magical number formula to that. It's up to us to propose.
Okay, we'll go for 100.
Okay.
Okay, so we're gonna ask for 100, that the drop a document that contingent upon a grant being awarded. We can fix it when they can. It could be this year, it could be next year. Contingent upon the state guaranteeing us that money, that at that time the county would take the road over. And then that we would then drop another agreement with the Perry Township and the city of Manville and us, and all future costs will be split a third, a third, a third. Actually, right now, we're kind of plowing it for free anyway. I mean, so, because we have to, you're gonna get snow on the way if you're going to snow. It just makes sense. So, but we can't, there's businesses there, there's construction, there's a gas station, there's a city, there's elevators. We just can't pretend the road doesn't exist. And it is deteriorating to the point, like this year, I asked Mr. West to come out and help, because we can't have people start to lose tires and stuff because we got man-eating potholes out there. So I know he doesn't want it, but sometimes we just gotta suck it up as a team and do what's right for the taxpayers.
Madam Chair and Mr. West,
Go ahead.
is that me, Terry?
Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Rose.
I was just curious, so is the grant, this is a Mr. West question, is the grant reoccurring?
It's good for another round. The state is gonna accept applications this winter. I just saw an email yesterday that applications are tentatively due this summer. And this is the same program that we did some pavement on Eagle Avenue, east of the Reynolds Beat Piler, and we got a bridge up by Gilby we're replacing this year. That low water crossing. It's the same program. The state legislature did improve that and made that a little more robust. So there's some options in there. But the state engineers and even myself think it's a good program and we got a fair chance of getting some funding out of that.
Do you have any concern that in future years that it would dry up and it would just become our baby?
Well, that's $1 million question there. I have no idea. What the state of North Dakota is gonna do with the Flex Fund program, I mean, I don't know.
I guess that, I mean, I'm not opposed to this at all, but it was just a question that kind of popped into my brain, so.
It's 6/10 of a mile. It's barely over half a mile. It's not miles upon miles. And so, like I said, I just think, I just don't like when the government, it's no one's job. I can't stand hearing that. It just ticks me off.
We gotta do
So,
everything.
we gotta do what's right for the
Taking care of
taxpayers.
everybody, so.
I would say that no matter what is done, well, if we're asked to pursue this further, whatever agreements would be written up would come back to the board for
Correct.
consideration. I mean, here today, my thought is just, does the board have a general consensus on which way we should go?
I would agree with Commissioner Bierke. I think we should move forward with it. So for the people in that area, it is maintained. Obviously, the snow removal is being taken care of, but big thing it sounds now is that it needs some maintenance, whether it's on the road or the culverts underneath. I would agree with Terry that we need to pursue this.
I would concur with Commissioner Peach. We have a job to do. And so, yeah, let's move forward. I'll do that in the form of a motion with chair's signature.
Well, I think right now we just have to draw a doc. We don't have anything to vote on even right now. We just,
Do we need a motion?
well, I think we have to draw the document up. Do you need a motion to draw the document up? I wouldn't think so. Once.
Okay.
And then we need to go after the grant right now before the window closes. You know, apply for that grant. And I
Okay.
think really got to put pressure on the state. Hey, listen, you're throwing this road. It's been over 50 years. We're expecting them. We ought to really put pressure on them for that money. It's
So
just.
Commissioner Bierke, I will pull back my previous motion, and will you just make a motion that's proper?
Well, we don't need a motion
We
yet.
don't need a motion.
Mr. West and Ms. Wamson will take care of it.
Okay.
Thank you. Thanks for the support. I live in that area. I've had people ask me about it. And it's not 30 seconds. I mean, once it gets fixed up, it's gonna last a while. But it's deteriorating to the point now where it's extremely bumpy.
Yeah, we need to take care of it.
The next item I have for consideration is another really odd one as well too. The intersection of County Road 11 and State Highway 18, so just north of Claremore a little bit. There's a resident there that purchased some land, was building a house, and there's this question over the ownership of it. And the County Road 11, just for people's knowledge, is the predecessor to US Highway 2, and that's where it used to go. So the curve that goes through that intersection was different than it is today. After the state constructed State Highway 18, they reconfigured the curve, moved the road a little further south. The residents' questions on the north side of the road, and there's this old abandoned spot that we inherited through the state, and it is a county road. We've accepted it. We maintain it. It's clearly ours. My knowledge, there's a sliver of land, a couple acres that we don't need. I don't feel we need. That the person that bought the lot thought it was their land, and it's not our fault that they didn't know, but it's hindering their ability to develop the property. And I'm here to see if the board had any thought on transferring that little bit of land to that adjacent.
I move we transfer the land to the landowner.
Second.
Do we sell it?
That was part of my question.
Okay.
Who pays what, and do we sell it? And if we do, how much?
I think we need to, it won't take very much to figure out what it's worth. And so I do think we should sell it. I don't know, we split the cost of some, whatever, but I'm a little concerned about just giving it away.
I think that's fair.
I think there's somebody.
Oh, sorry, she's here. Yeah.
Well, the packet indicates it's a sliver. What's it possibly worth?
Mark, just one second, please. So,
Who's
do you want to come up to the
Yeah,
podium to tell us what your name is? Yeah, thank you.
Karina Kojay, my husband and I are fairly new Grand Forks. We purchased this land about 2 years ago, and we've been trying to. I've been talking with Nick here for about a year. We started this last year. When we purchased the land, it was originally listed at 8 acres. When we requested survey information from the sellers, the survey information said 4. It's obviously a large discrepancy, so we were like, what's up with this? They spent about a week doing title work, and I guess they couldn't find anything that said 8 acres, so they relisted it at 4, and we continued with the purchase. It was, however, 2 parcels at the time, about 1/4 of an acre within the larger. I don't know if you have any images in your stuff. That tiny triangle is I think it's 0.4 acres, that belongs to someone, and then someone else owns the larger area around it. Through the agreement, they agreed to sell it to the same seller so we could combine it. When we purchased it and combined it with the county, again, thinking at the time it was 4 acres, we got a letter from the county that said, congratulations, this is your new parcel number. Here's your 8.1 acres. So we're still questioning that, which is when I reached out to Nick, I reached out to Chris. Is that who you're talking about?
Chris Jordan, the
Yeah,
surveyor.
the surveyor as well, and all of his information he can find. No one can find where the property line says 8 acres, but I did finding some documents to come here today. I actually did find our tax statement from when we've owned it, and we've been paying for 8 acres. So we had 8.48 acres that we've been paying taxes on. And so, sorry, I didn't get to tell you
No,
that
that's fine.
before. I showed up today, so.
So you only have 4, but you're paying.
The survey, the
Okay, wait.
survey information we have says 4, but everything we have from the county, like, says 8. But I can't find anything, all of the papers show this lot, which shows the old center line for, I guess, what the highway used to be. And the right of way cuts all the way up to that, I think it's a blue triangle, I can't see the numbers, the blood color from here, which is the tree line in front of the house that we're currently building. And so it takes away what is our entire front yard essentially.
Okay, well, I'm okay transferring. If they're
Yeah,
paying.
if you're
Yeah, I'm fine. I didn't know that.
then
Yeah,
the
that's fine with
land
me.
is.
But then,
You're good.
For paperwork,
then Karina, if we transferred the number of acres that you're talking about, that's 2 acres approximately?
I think it's closer to 4.
Okay.
Yeah, because I think that the discrepancy between the survey information we have and the rest of our stuff is about 4 acres.
You're paying
I
that. I
don't
think
know
there
if
was a
it's-
motion made and I seconded.
Okay,
Okay.
there, I apologize, who made the original?
I'll mark it.
Mark made the original, okay, any
I
further
see.
discussion on that?
So
one?
we're transferring the
We're
land.
transferring the
Okay.
land, they're paying taxes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Motion passed unanimously.
Sorry.
No, thank you for coming.
Sorry, it's so long.
Thank you.
Who would pay for title work, survey work, et cetera? Just to make the transfer.
I'm okay with us. I don't want to.
Yeah.
She's been paying taxes.
Yeah, we'll do it.
That was a,
Yeah,
We'll do it.
we should have, we should have taken care of it. This goes another, I think it's 50 years old.
Yeah.
For about a decade is what we were told when we bought it.
Yeah.
We bought and demolished.
We'll figure it.
Okay.
thank you, thank you.
Okay. The next item for consideration is, Logan Center has approached us about only entering into a winter maintenance agreement. And there was, I had a real good meeting with Logan Center Township. It was very fair. They're good guys out there. Where they weren't getting the service that thought they were. And it didn't come to my attention until more recently. Township has already hired another contractor to do summer work. They have all intentions of coming back to the county next year. We believe we can provide the service. It can be what it was and what it should be. But this is something different that would just be this year. Our goal is one winter or one summer only, or one through the year, we'd only provide winter maintenance. And so then we prorated the agreement that what's before you for consideration, that is just the winter portion of it.
I would move approval of, the Grand Forks County Road and Bridges Department to provide snow removal for Logan Center, this winter.
Second.
First and a second, is there any further discussion? All those in favor-
Aye.
All in favor of the motion, other than Mark, no.
Aye.
Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed.
You got it all that I have.
You sure?
No
Just
kidding.
kidding.
Chip seal starts tomorrow.
Thanks, Nick. Okay, Mr. Ford, is your turn, sir.
Yes, Madam Chair, Commissioners. I only have one item, and actually, I think Evelyn is there in the room, and if she is, I'm gonna defer it to her, but this is an update on a project we've been working with regarding the city of Grand Forks and public health. And after the commission voted to continue providing public health their space in the Cobb free of rent, an ongoing issue that we've been aware of is their cabling and their access to their own fiber internet racking. And so that's coming along nicely, but there's going to be some costs that we're going to incur on our end. And with that, I'm going to defer it over to Evelyn for the details.
When the city schedules the IT updates that they're doing, the fiber, everything. To it. The fiber run from PD. Cost share, because we will also be updating our 25-year-old fiber. That I have in my IT budget, it's already planned. The second part is the net cabling. They will be doing all of their own costs. And we'll follow the $60,000. An investment in our business, basically, if help ever did leave. That makes us have to remove our old fiber. Removing the old fiber is not something the city is willing to pay for. And I've gotten an estimate on it, and it's time material, but it is not to exceed $14,500. Without finding somewhere to pay that from, it's hard to let the city move forward. Because this would be done at the same time. Sure. But they do plan on scheduling, they're about to start scheduling, and they plan on scheduling late summer. 14,500, we don't, no one knows where that's coming from. I don't need it tonight, but it's more of an update to tell you that this money has to come from somewhere before we can go forward with the city. Thanks for
Okay, Ms. Wamstead, do you have anything for the board? Okay, any reports, Mr. Ricky?
I have just a future meeting. We know we ran an issue with the planning with the city that all that. So myself and Mr. Maggs are going to the city council on Monday night. Mr. Maggs has got a presentation ready to go, and he'll be explaining the issue. There is no issue there. They just some didn't quite maybe grasp what we're doing here, but we can't give out certificates of occupancy that we don't do. I mean, like they inspect it, they have to do it. So he's going to present all that, explain all that. I don't foresee a problem, and then we'll get that MOU back on track and get it back to us. Sure, we can post sign it and get that taken care of. So hopefully Monday night that's going to get taken care of and that'll be on the city council agenda. I just want to make sure I hear about that.
The library board met last week. The meeting was very good and they're doing well. That's all I have to report.
The mayor's enhancement, base enhancement committee was to meet this morning, but they canceled and deferring it till August. So.
Mr. Rusted, do you have anything for the board?
You know what? I have been most absent county commissioner probably in the last several decades because of stuff going on with my wife. So I have nothing to report.
Understand that, Mark. Thank you. I had a couple of things. We were able to say, but a sad farewell to Colonel Monroe and his family. The change of guard, so to speak, happened today, and Colonel Rosales and his wife, their family is here now. We got to meet them last Monday night. And then the groundbreaking ceremony for the new expansion on Sirius happened this week, and the sports complex at All True. I was able to attend that and support the city. And other than that, on there again, and I don't think we have any correspondence, so I would entertain a motion.
Mark,
Move adjournment.
second.
All those in favor?